Welcome to Recruiting Your A Team. This is going to be a really fun webinar. We're going to get into a lot of details, obviously, in terms of recruiting. To give you a little bit more perspective here as we dive in, the goal today is to really do one thing. I want to help everybody on the call today. My goal is to help you find 3 insights on what you can do to increase the level of talent you're bringing into the organization. That's ultimately the goal here today. So as we go through everything we plan on talking about, my intent is that you find those 3 things that you can write down and truly go make a change and impact as you go out to recruit and find some of your top talent. So my name's Casey Clark. I am the CEO of Cultivate Advisors, one of the co-founders of the business. To give you just a little clarity on my background, I started as a record-setting franchise owner. So my background came from being in the franchise space, learning how to grow and run my own business. From there, actually got into the franchisor side, scaled to 90 plus franchises with 600 plus employees, and then went on to co-found Cultivate Advisors with my business partner, Dan Grauman. On the scaled side of what we accomplished in the franchising space, obviously a lot of experience when it came to recruiting folks and how to bring people in, not only to recruit entrepreneurs, but then also to help the entrepreneurs recruit their employees. As Cultivate, we've helped hire hundreds and hundreds of employees through all the owners that we have the luxury of working with and have partnered with. So when it comes to recruiting, we definitely have something to say in this fix, but recruiting is a constant evolving thing. And although I have a ton of background, there's always new and upcoming things. So for those that are coming in with a little bit of experience, really get ready to write down a lot of great notes that you're going to capture to take recruiting to the next level. For those that maybe have quite a bit experience and maybe some of the experience I have, you're still going to find some of those new things. I've gone and pulled in different elements and different perspectives of recruiting that should really help give you that edge as you try to move to the next top talent here in front of your organization. All right. So at Cultivate, we help manage the hats, right? As you manage the hats, it can be so difficult as a business owner. That's what we stand for. So that's why we've created our company. And our goal as advisors is truly just to help hold those hats, be it doing some of the work for the client, doing helping partner and walking through different aspects of the different hats and help teaching those different areas. We're all about helping business owners take back control and get to the next stage of the business and get to the achieved growth. That's what we do on a consistent basis. One second here. There we go. So I've got just a couple quick expectations here for us today, since you know a little bit about me and as well as what we're all about. First, chat. If you haven't joined one of our webinars before, you'll know that we like to chat. So if you can, go ahead and navigate to the all panelists and attendees and go ahead and look for that opportunity there on the chat box. And you should be able to just go ahead and jump in there and say hello. That'll help me know that you found the chat box. I appreciate that. And as you go through questions, you can also navigate and find there's a Q&A opportunity. Look for that button. If you have a question you'd like to ask just Cultivate, maybe you don't want everybody in the chat to know about it, you can go ahead and place your question into that Q&A field. And if we don't answer it during the webinar today, we'll make sure we at least follow up with you after to ensure you got that answer. You'll notice as we go along, I do some polls along the way just to help keep a pulse on the group so I know what people's emotions or feelings are towards certain things. And then as always, we will have post-webinar resource options available for everybody in the call. So make sure you stay all the way until the end so I can get you some of those really awesome materials. So quick expectation here. Again, some of you are coming in as beginners. Some of you are coming in as experts. Please know that today we are going to be focused on graduated learning. I've created some content to be designed for folks just getting started. I've created others in pursuit of those that maybe have quite a bit more experience. It's all about graduated learning for us. So your job, identify where maybe you are on this staircase. And by you finding those 3 insights that I shared earlier, you're going to jump 1 to 2 steps today. That's what our goal is. Give me 1 sec. There we go. So let's go ahead and jump in here to the chat. And what I'm looking for you is, what are you hoping to learn today? You obviously have taken time away to come join us and really develop your skills as a business owner of what it means to take recruiting to the next level and find better talent. Help me understand. Jump into the chat here and let me know, what did you hope to learn more about today? And I'll do my best to tailor my content to hit what some of those objectives might be. So I'll give everybody here just a moment. Everybody's still writing, I'm assuming. There we go. Zeroing down on ensuring we choose the right candidates. Okay. When does it make sense to hire? Okay, I've got a couple small pieces on that. There's any technology, okay. Awesome. Okay, we're getting some really unique perspectives here. Definitely going to get into some of these elements. I'll talk a little bit more specifically of what I plan to cover here. So the first thing you have to know, sorry about that. The first thing you need to hear is this. Hiring the right people takes time and money. It takes time. Listen to what I just said. It takes time and money. It costs money to also recruit. It's not just free, obviously, not just for the employee, but it takes money to actually go find the higher level candidates that are out there. And I'm going to break that down a little further today. But then hiring the wrong people will absolutely cost you more. And I love this quote because it's really just to say anyone that has ever hired the wrong person, this is what I've heard. I've been in so many advising meetings that when I get into the conversation, I constantly find that people go, gosh, this was so expensive because I have the wrong person in the seat. And when you do that, it's one of the biggest things that puts your business at risk as you continue to grow and scale. So that's what we're really going to try to uncover today. And I've got a really good roadmap for us. I'm going to walk through the 3 most important prep questions you need to be able to answer before you should ever even think about hiring. So those are the 3 that's going to set us up. That's going to hit quite a few of the outcomes that people have focused in on. Additionally, I'm going to walk through how do you start to select top talent to even know who should go to the interview. Before you even get to the interview and try to sell them and get them all bought in, how do you even know who to take to the interview? Obviously, time isn't just readily available for all business owners. Then I'm going to talk about how to sell those top candidates. Now that you know you've got the right ones, I'm going to talk to you about how to then do a behavioral analysis for the final selection to make sure you get the top talent. And then from there, I'm going to talk about the 2 most common mistakes that I continue to see business owners, recruiters, and the recruiting teams within these businesses make on a consistent basis. And I think these are really going to add and shed some light for all of you here on the call today. All right. So why is this skill so important? And if you've seen this slide, we've shown this slide at several different webinars when it comes down to recruiting. And I keep it because it's really the most clear way to put a quantitative measurement to really truly the cost of hiring. So we've just run a quick analysis here. What you see on the left is all the tasks you have to do to get a single employee off the ground. And most of the time, obviously, sometimes it can be more, sometimes it can be less depending on the type of role. But what this is showing you the amount of time. So that number needed is is the number of activities. So you need 50 names, you need 25 voicemails out, 12 phone screens, 6 live interviews, 2 offer letters. Now, this would be a really simple process. This wouldn't include a complicated process like multiple interviews. And then you can see the hours that start to trickle down there. Look at how much time at the bottom there. You see my cursor here. It goes into 80, 20, 12. I mean, there's a lot of time spent getting the person off the ground. Now, some of that might be leveraged as you bring on training classes, but think about the amount of energy and time that's going in. Now, attach that to your cost, right? This top line, let's say you're worth $50 an hour. This is how much that's costing you for one employee, 5 or 10. Let's say you're worth $100 an hour. Let's say you're worth $200 an hour. You can start to see how much does it cost to truly, just with your time as a business owner, go out and hire if you're still the business owner hiring and you don't have someone doing it for you. That's a lot of cost. Imagine if you're wrong and you hire the wrong people. That can really add up. Like I said, that's what really creates the risk for business owners as they look to grow and scale through employees. Now, folks that are hiring 5, 10, 15 a year and maybe larger businesses that are on the call today, for you, you may have a recruiter, you may have a talent agency that's doing this for you. Still, think about the cost you're enduring through them and what happens if they're wrong in their selection or not attracting the right top talent. So I want to launch a quick poll here. We're going to launch it. I want to know how many people have you hired in the past. I just want to get an idea of the level of experience I have on this webinar here with all of our great attendees. So I'll give everybody just a few moments here. Find the poll and navigate and click how many folks have you hired in the past, just so I have an idea of where we're at in the room today. Give everybody just another few seconds. We're about 70% have voted. Okay, seems like we're starting to slow down here. So let's go ahead and show those results. It's fairly mixed bag. So about 38% here in the room today has got 0 to 3. So just getting started. You've only hired a few, but you'll see the next one is actually 51. So kind of interesting. I don't always see that. We've got a lot of people who have hired a ton of people, and then we've got a lot of people on the call that haven't hired a ton. So I've got my work cut out for me, but this is really helpful now. I'll try to stick on the certain parts that I think will be more valuable. So let me move that poll out of the way here, and then we'll keep going. So I guess my message to you to hear today is recruiting is not luck. There is a skill to finding good talent. It takes a lot of nuances. It takes a lot of specific things in the right order that will create the right caliber of people coming into your organization. And I think we all know what happens if you don't have the right people in the organization. That can really deteriorate your culture. You can find yourself in a situation where your clients aren't happy. If you're a service business, if you find people not taking care of the product side of the business because you don't have the right people who really take the initiative and take the ownership, you'll find yourself in a position constantly just being in a whirlwind, constantly being in chaos because you can't trust your people in the organization to take you to the next level. So it's not luck. And the other thing I constantly hear is people struggle to know when to hire. And most people think that it's a capacity is when you hire. Most business owners think when I get so full, I will then go hire the next person. But as a small business owner, it's a little different at times, right? For some of these smaller businesses, sometimes you have to go get the hire to open up the opportunity to go make more sales or to go push whatever department you need so you can grow and start to scale. So often I see proactive growth with small business owners. Before they're ready for the hire, they're choosing to bring somebody in to then go create the opportunity. So you have to decide based on the hiring needs that you have this year, are you hiring based on capacity issues or are you hiring based on opportunity? And the reason why that's such a crucial and important thing for you to understand is who you hire and the strictness in which how you might hire may change. Think about it, right? On the capacity side, you may need to hire out of a need. Out of opportunity, you want to wait to make sure you've truly found the exact right person. You're not going to necessarily take near as many risks because you don't have to. It's all about fit at that point. Meaning on capacity, you may be a little bit more quicker to make a decision, but on an opportunity, you may really slow down and take your time. And that's important to navigate that as I walk you through some of the prep today that I'm going to cover. Got a slight delay. There we go. So I've got 3 important prep questions. I think these will help. I'll do my best to help you process these, but these are 3 questions. If anyone would come into my office and work with me personally on their business or anybody on our team, these are 3 questions we'd want to see asked because we know that if you can answer these 3 questions, you're in a good place to start hiring. And the first one is, are you ready to hire? Are you actually ready to hire? Let's think about what's included in that. Do you have your KPIs, your goals? Do you have 90-day metrics set up and established, ready to go for that person? Because if you don't have clarity on the data, you are not going to be able to show them what they need to do to show performance. Do you have the leadership system set up? Do you know who's going to lead the person? Do you have the right meeting structure set up? Do you have the right documentation needed to be able to walk that through smoothly when somebody starts with you? How about your training plan and program? Do you know how you're going to onboard them, how you're going to train them, and how you're going to continue to follow up through training, not just in the first few weeks, but through the first year, maybe even through the second year? Do you have the reward planner built? And is it set up properly with the right intrinsic motivations, really leading to the right KPIs? That can be fairly challenging to get set up. And then do you have the cash flow to support the hire? Have you gone and ran a pro forma that says, if I hire this person, what will happen if they fail? What will happen if they succeed? So you understand your tolerance of risk. And then the last one is, do you have a recruiting process, number of interviews, the timeline of those interviews, and the budget that you're willing to spend to find the candidates? If you haven't done the hard strategical work to get these items all in place, you're going to find yourself really struggling to bring somebody in successfully. Even if you find the right talent, you're not actually ready to hire. So I'm not going into a lot of these details. I'm going to expand just a little further on the reward planner here in a moment. But if you see any of these things and you're a client with us, get this on your roadmap and talk. If you're not a client with us, you may want to think about becoming one because we can help you get all of these things in place. But this reward planner and this compensation it's very important. So often we see business owners try to find the cheapest person they can find because they just want help. Again, that's where that capacity versus opportunity opens itself up. And I want you to think differently about what is the value of hiring up? What happens if you start to look at the market versus talent cost? And so you can go on Glassdoor, you can go on some of these great Indeed and all these great websites to get get clarity or an idea of how much should you pay. And I encourage you to do that research. You want to know what other people are paying in the market. That is important. But so much more times that we see often than not is that people forget to understand, well, what is the talent cost? What does it cost to get the right person that you can depend on? And how much more time will you spend in training trying to get the wrong person into to fit at that level of caliber? So I just want you to really process that and go, I'd almost rather you take a little higher risk and wait a few months if you need to save up a bit more capital to get better talent. Now, just because they have a higher price tag or they have a higher need for money or they're making more money does not mean that they are higher talent. You still have to follow through the rest of what I'm going to share today to know you've identified and you attract them so you can really take that A game to the next level. All right, so number 2, this is the second question that we like to ask. Is your organization persona locked in? Do you know what recruit persona you need for your organization on a consistent basis? Right? Do you know the background experience that you require for anyone to be a part of the organization? Do you know what the technical tasks for the role that they're going to have to go and do? Now remember, these are easy to coach. In fact, having a specific task to a role is the easiest to coach on. We're not going to necessarily base our hiring off that, but it's important to know what the minimum level you expect them to be at. Number 2 is what's the attributes? I'll kind of digest this a bit further here in a moment. This is harder to coach, to help somebody move through attributes. It takes a lot more time. But then also the traits. Do you know what traits do you have? And these are deal breakers. These you're not able to coach, and I'll explain why here in just a moment. But is there a culture fit? Sometimes you can have every single box get checked in a recruiting process and go, wow, this person's perfect on paper. Doesn't mean there's a fit. And the way to think of it is if any of you have dated in the past, which I'm sure some of you have, when you've dated, you've probably had those moments when you went, wow, this person is nice. This person's great. I could see this working. They check my boxes. But there's still that feeling of just, this doesn't work for me. This isn't going to be what I want for whatever reason. There's some level of attraction there. And so you have to understand that culture is the attraction for a business. And then if it just doesn't feel like the right cultural fit, it's okay to realize that that's not going to be the right person. So documenting this ahead of time before you ever go out and interview, again, is a big step when you want to get yourself in the right position to go hire. So to take this a little further, remember the attributes. I talked about how you can absolutely mold this. This is Play-Doh. You have to really, right, if you leave it out too long, it can get stiff, meaning you always have to be developing the people that you're working with to be able to continue to mold them. So as we look at this, these are your preferences. This is the person's preferences. What do they generally tend to do in specific situations? And it might be different for what you're looking for in each role. And again, it's based on whoever's going to be the leader. They're really the ones that need to identify the preferences because they're the ones that are going to work with them directly. So if you're going, well, what types of preferences are you speaking of, Casey, for these attributes? Here's a couple examples. Attainment. How goal-oriented is the person? That might be really important to me as a leader, as a preference, that I have somebody that's goal-oriented. Doesn't mean they can't be successful, but it's just, do they have the level of attainment I need? Or do they have the level of leadership or autonomy? Are they introspective? There's a lot of other really great attributes you may want to be testing for depending on the role. And if you're struggling on what that should be, talk to one of our advisors and let us help you figure that out. Now let's flip it on the other side, right? There's a whole other world that we can talk about as well, which is we start to get into our traits here. Sorry, jumped ahead there on me. And the traits, this is more of the DNA of the person. This is more of, this is not probably going to change. This is truly who they are. And you don't want to have to try and teach these things. So for an example, tenacity. Somebody's either has the drive or they don't. I don't know how you're going to teach someone how to be driven. I don't know if you can teach someone how to have values. Those are a lot harder to be able to maintain. And so I use this image of a rock just to help you understand that's who they are. You're not going to be able to mold that rock. The rock is what it is, right? So just have that understanding that when you're getting ready to go find the right person for the potential role that you're going to hire for, be very clear of what is actually the technical task they have to do in the role. That's all trainable and teachable. Then understand the next layer down. right, is these attributes, a bit more moldable with development. And then the third one is traits. You need the traits to lock in, the attributes be as close as you can, and then you just figure out what level of background or experience you need to hit the specific tasks. And by doing that, what you'll do is you'll find yourself starting to find the right people much faster because you're clear from day one who you're looking for. All right, here's my third last question here of how do you actually get prepared for hiring? Then we'll get into some more of the fun stuff. You need to understand that every role is different in terms of how you're going to go find your ideal candidates, because you have to be able to answer that question. Where will you find the ideal candidates? And each role is going to be completely different depending on the complexity, the technical aspects of it. Meaning if it's a really simple role that you can find a lower tier hourly role, there's a lot more options that you're going to find those folks. There's a much more larger abundance of those folks. But when you want somebody in leadership or higher caliber, you'll have to search deeper and push harder to find those individuals. So for the common jobs, maybe the lower tier jobs, just post on Indeed. Indeed is the largest recruiting site throughout US and Canada. I think that's mostly where we have our people joining us from today. You will be able to find majority of applicants through Indeed. They own the market, all right? The question is, are you spending on the advertising dollars, and do you realize how much it costs to get in front to get enough views of the job description? Ideally, though, if you're going to go above common jobs, and really even those, my preference is always to hire people with jobs. I don't really have a preference to hire people who are unemployed. And it's not that I haven't, and it's not that there's not good fits. That's not my intention. It's just that when you meet somebody that already has a job, you're able to really check in on a lot more details of who they are and what are they able to accomplish. And you don't have to have that fear hanging over you of, is this person just doing it because they need the job versus are they making sure this is the right fit for them? Because that's a big key to get the buy-in, to get the strong talent, to then get the performance that you're looking for. So how do you find some of those folks? LinkedIn Recruiter is about $129 a month there through the US account, through the US side. I mean, that is a phenomenal program that you can go through and identify your people and reach out directly and try to take people in. It's time intensive, but it does work. Referrals and networking, going to your other employees, sitting down with them formally and asking them to get into their network and identify 3 to 4 people they could connect you with to talk about a role that you think would be a good fit. So often that can be the most flattering way of approaching recruiting that'll help generate a ton of traffic. It's one of our biggest sources when we refer in our advisors. That's a big source for us. But a lot of people discredit the talent agencies and they go, well, it's just too expensive. But when you really start to slow down the amount of hours and the amount of time you spend, depending on the size of your business, I would say if you're past your 10 or 15 employees, sometimes it can be a good idea to go to a talent agency or even start to bring in a recruiter if you're starting to hire that many people on a consistent basis. This is where the talent agencies can help you find other people that are looking for jobs as well. They can go do some of this extra heavy lifting and administrative work to get the vibes out there so you can find the right talent and pull them in. The biggest key I need you to hear, though, you're going to need more candidates than you think you need. Majority of the time, I see this as a mistake. I see folks think, oh, I've got 50 names, I'm good. I don't know. That doesn't always take place. I would instead really encourage you to think about how do you get yourself to the place where you have so many names you don't know what to do with yourself. It's worth it to spend $500, $1,000 on getting all these names as a budget to hire that really good person and make sure you have as many looks as possible. Don't try to squeeze that first step. You'll just end up spending way more money later versus paying it up front to get as many looks as you possibly can. All right, so we've gone through my 3 questions you have to be able to ask. So I want to just throw out a quick poll here. Let's launch this. What is your hiring situation? I want to find out, are you getting ready to hire? Are you thinking about hiring? So let's go ahead and get that second poll here launched. So do you need staff immediately? Are you looking to hire in the next 6 months, or really just hiring as a thought at this point? You're just more coming to get some additional development, but it may not be something you need right this minute. Everybody here just a moment to process what that is. All right, very, very helpful for me to get an idea. So we have a lot of people today that's getting ready to hire staff immediately. So you're definitely in the right spot here. There's definitely a few here that are waiting here a bit longer. before they'll get hired. But that's really helpful to help me understand where we're at. Thank you for that. All right. So we're going to talk about now, how do you select the top talent for the interview? And I think this is such a crucial point that a lot of people miss. And so as we walk through it, I'm going to talk you through the deal breakers I follow. And we're really talking about before you ever bring them to an interview, either on a really initial quick call or just looking at their resume. There's a lot of different ways that you can navigate this. But some of the deal breakers are this. Technical skills. What are the technical skills you want to see in the resume, or you want them to describe to you over the phone or an application, whatever it might be? You're going to break this down into two parts. What's the experience level you're expecting? What's the education you're expecting? Meaning, how do they understand the theory? Is that all you need? Or have they actually done it? And how many times have they done it? Those are all things that you're looking for. Logistics on that side. And again, some of this is basic, but again, I want to bring everybody up to speed for us. You also want to know you have logistics figured out. You never want to bring somebody in through the interview process, get all the way to the back end of an interview and realize, oh my gosh, these logistics don't work. You're doing something wrong then on the front end of the process, either in that initial qualifying stage. So just some quick ones. Do they need a car? Is it based on a certain location? Depending on your role in your company, you're going to have your logistics. You're going to have to identify those. But the last one is, again, you have those traits and those attributes that you're already starting to get a feel for. And I'll show you how to get some of these things in very unique ways here. So the first one, have resume rules and do not bend on them. After you get a bunch of your resumes, LinkedIn profiles, however you capture the name generation, make sure you come up with very specific rules that you will dictate, again, on that experience based on logistics. And what you want to do is you want to just remove all gut and just cross. It would be common if I was to receive 200 resumes that I would take that down to about 20 for perspective. I find about 10 to 15% of applicants and resumes should truly go to the next stage of an interview process. Now, you may have a little more confusion if you're just now starting to hire, and you may need to have less rules so you can get a chance to talk to more people. But as you realize the themes of who you're not hiring, keep going back and documenting what are the rules that you want to follow in terms of bending. So I just want to let everybody take a moment. I want you to write down one rule that you could set when you're reviewing resumes for the role that you've either hired in the past or you're getting ready to hire, based on we have a very split group today, people getting ready to hire, people waiting to hire. So just write down what would be one rule you could set as a resume. Give everybody just a moment here. Okay. So hopefully everybody's got their rule that they're going to have. Angela, I love that. No spelling mistakes, which then you misspelled mistakes, which is hilarious. But nonetheless, you don't want to have the rules broken. Don't give in. Don't reach out. Just cut them. Get them down to that 10 to 15, maybe 20%, and that should get you started. There's another way to do it, though, using applications. Now, you might be on the first side. You may just want to have a standard, web form online, or you may have a, piece of paper, a Word doc they have to fill out and send back. Make sure you capture open qualifying questions. For instance, tell me why you believe you are, goal-oriented. Walk me through 2 examples where you have shown that you are goal-oriented. Save yourself the time. You're all so busy. Make them do the work, but don't go too far. It's a balance. Remember, you haven't got other folks sold about your company yet. You haven't got them sold that they want to work for you yet. This is a two-way street. So ask the 1 or 2 most important, dire questions you have to ask to qualify based on some of those attributes or some of those traits based on their DNA that's most important to you for the role. Keep it simple and pull that information in. For those of you that want to use technology, this is really where I see an opportunity for technology, where you can go out and find like Spark Hire. I think LimeWire is the other one that's out there. If you really just type into Google online video interviewing applications, you're going to find 9 or 10 of these things. They range anywhere from $20 a month all the way up to $400 a month, depending on the level that you need and the enterprise value that you need. Talk to an advisor to help you sort through that and figure out what's the right one for you. But this can be a phenomenal tool If you have a lot of candidates that you want to get an idea of what's their charisma, how do they hold themselves on a camera, and these softwares are great because you can just ask 8 to 10 simple questions, have them rate it, and record a 1 or 2 minute response, which allows you to move quickly through your candidates you're most interested in. I've seen a lot of processes lately start with the name, resume coming in, submitting the application, and then saying you've qualified. We'd like you to answer these 3 or 4 questions verbally, and then we'll move to the interview. And that can be a really great way to help save quite a bit of time. But the third way, outside of an application or outside of just reviewing a resume or LinkedIn profile, is now to use an assessment. So if you're a client with us, you have full access to predictive index. So this is a personality that you can use that lets you help kind of capture, I just shot a picture here, dominance, extroversion, patience, formality, gives you a lot of perspective that you can inherently understand the attributes and traits of the person. And so I don't care if you use that one or if you have another one you prefer, I just think it's really good business to use some form of an assessment to make sure it's not just in your brain as the recruiter or your recruiting team, and you're using something else to standardize who you bring in. The biggest key here is predetermine what you want. Have your top performers take whatever assessment you're using. So if you're working with us, get your top performers to take the predictive index through us that we give you as access as a client, and then see what lines up. Where do you see the similarities of your top performers? Use that to now dictate performance up front, so you save all that time in the back end. So that's a lot of work if you think about what we just talked about, right? We've just captured through the first portion, which is what are the 3 questions you have to get prepared, which is all the stuff after they're hired and knowing who the persona is. But now the second grouping is now how do you get in the upfront stage of recruiting? And you have to slow down and really get this process right so you can actually take the time to identify the right talent out of the gates coming into the interview process. This is where the fun part really starts, because now you need to sell the top candidates. This is really what that next step is. So when you think about your interview, I'm just going to give a couple really basic 101s, and then I'll get into some more advanced stuff. 1, professional setting. If I see one more business owner have an interview at a coffee shop, not going to cut it. Rent a room. It's worth it. Line up the interviews for the day. Rent the room if you have a virtual office. Create the professional setting. Don't just use a chill Google Hangouts. Buy $15 a month. Buy Zoom. Buy some type of software where you can share screen easily. You can really manage the room properly virtually. That's so important for the professionalism to attracting the top talent. They're measuring, engaging you at all times. This is not a one-way street. Dress code. How you dress. Make sure you dress where you're prideful of your brand. Make sure that you're setting yourself up to look the part and look professional so they can reciprocate that to you. Be prepared. It's okay to have their resume in front of you. Write it up, put a bunch of notes on it. Show them that you're really taking the time, that you've highlighted their assessment. That will create so much buy-in that this is truly an interview process. You're not just trying to hire the next person, which is going to, take away this person's livelihood if it's not the right fit. Be on time. Do not start interviews late. All you do is start the conversation of how your culture behaves and deliver on your promises. If you say show up at this time, that's part of the promise. But it's also deliver on any promises. I'm going to share this information with you in the interview. You better be ready to share that information with them, because they're going to be watching subconsciously like a hawk what you do in the very first part of this interview. And make sure you're creating opportunities to do all of this, right? So what I mean by that is tell them what should the attire be. Explain to them in your emails, I've reviewed all this information. I have a lot of questions I've written down. Give yourself a few small promises that you can then show them you hit and get little wins to build trust early on. The most talented folks that have the most options are the most, they're looking the harshest at you because they know they have options. Just think about that. The people who let the small stuff go, those are the folks that maybe don't necessarily have the same talent level because they're not viewing it the same way, as the same amount of buy-in or ownership. So these little 101s can do so much. The 101s can be such a small little thing to start with, but it'll just take you to a whole other level in your process. The next kind of 101 item, and then I'll move more complex stuff here. Make sure it's the appropriate amount of sharing. You need to check yourself if you're talking the most in the interview. Again, think about dating. This picture really sums it up. If you're oversharing, you're going to overwhelm. You can't tell them everything you know about the business. You got to be very specific of what you choose to share with them that's going to get them excited at the right timing of the interview process. It's not about you, it's about them in this process. And so what I'm asking you to do when you sell candidates, the first thing you have to do is you have to focus on fit. And this is a great image to really just resemble that square peg into a round hole. So often we do it. But if you just instead focus on them, you'll find out you soon enough. First priority, is this a fit for them? Is this a fit? Because you're going to be honest if it's not. And it's okay to end an interview early when you already realize what's most important to them does not jive with how this role works. You don't need to ask any of your questions. They're going to appreciate that you didn't waste their time and tell them, I can't get you these things. On the benefits side of doing this, here's what you'll find. People will have more job satisfaction because you do this from day one. They'll have better retention. They're going to have better performance. But they're also going to help you establish your culture, which is so crucial in the early stages of running this business. And so I'm going to go much deeper on how to do this at a very high level. And I'm going to give you some times to really help. So when you think about the interview, I want you to think about the first 20 minutes. Your job is to sell the candidate. That's right. Sell them. This is a sales call. Say this is a sales meeting. You'll flip the script here after those 20 minutes. But you have to sell that person. Top talent is expecting you to sell them. If you don't, you won't get them. You'll get mediocre or poor talent. So this is really, really crucial step. And I've kind of broken this down into some simple things you can do in these 20 minutes just to make this as tangible as possible for all of you. First, needs analysis. That's going to take about 8 minutes. You need to run a needs analysis of what they need from a job. Second, you're going to ask them to do a helicopter tour. I'll explain what that is here in just a moment. And third and finally, you're then going to confirm the benefits for them. You have to do these 3 steps in those first 20 minutes. This is going to create their buy-in to really interview hard for the position and really create their desire to work for you so you can truly see who is the performer. This also separates you away from everyone else that just shows up for a big, huge job and they feel like a number. Most people on this call are small business owners. I saw somebody make a comment, I'm worried I don't have the level of benefits I can offer. First off, there's a lot of options out there now through PEO firms to be able to offer some phenomenal benefits. So you got to figure that out. If you don't know what a PEO firm is, please reach out to your advisor. They can walk you through our relationship that we have with one of our PEOs. They'll be at our annual conference. Love to get you introduced to them. That's a great, great partnership for us because they take over all those benefits and help make sure you have what you need on the benefit side. But the other benefit is they want to feel wanted. They want to feel part of a team. They want to feel like they can make impact. Only those folks are the ones that are interested in working for small business owners. There is such a thing as meeting a candidate that just has no business working for a small business owner. They're better suited in corporate. Very rarely will corporate, large companies take the time to sit down and do this for the first 20 minutes. So on the needs analysis, I'm going to give you some of these helpful hints, and we're going to be sharing some additional resources after to give you this. Here's some of the questions I would ask. What interests you about the job? What have you liked or disliked about past roles? This helps me understand what's important to them. What do you like or dislike about your current role? How do you navigate that? What do you think you would like to be? Why do you think you'd like to be part of this team from what you know so far? I have to pull this information in so I understand what's most crucial and most important to them, because that's all I need to talk about today. On the probing side, I'm going to go a little further. So it sounds like you're really interested in working with the senior population. Tell me more why that sounds so rewarding. I want to understand the what, but I most importantly want to understand the why. And then what is it about the challenge that you find rewarding? You said challenge is important to you. Tell me more about that. By me just slowing down with these simple, quick questions, I start to learn what they look for in a role and in an opportunity. So then I can truly come back and validate and say, what I'm hearing you say is you want this, this, and this. That's what's going to be most important to you. Is that right? If I give you that at this job, this company, will you be successful? That alone just got them excited, but now you're going to go the next step further. You're going to do a quick helicopter tour. Take 8 more minutes and do an overview of the role that you have for them, connecting the features and the benefits back to what they said they're interested in. Somebody might say, I really want an autonomous role where somebody's not leaning over me. You don't have to talk about all the great technology you have in the company. You can just talk about the culture of autonomy and how you operate, if that's the case. It also gives you this opportunity now to say, unfortunately, we don't have the amount of autonomy I think you're looking for. This may not be a good fit. What you're going to find 60 to 70% of the time, they're not used to hearing no. They're not used to hearing that level of candidness. The higher talent is going to be more attracted to you, and they may backpedal. They may say, well, maybe I'd be open depending on what else you have to share about the role. And all of a sudden, you now start to create what's called position of strength. And I'll come back to that here in a moment. Your opportunity here is to share more about the role and show them. Every time you can show them versus tell them, meaning pull it up, show them examples of what you do with your clients, show them examples of your products, depending on the type of business. Get them excited about the passion. Look to see if their eyes are brightening because they tie into that passion. Those are the things you have to do, because then you're going to come back, slow it down, and say, from what I just described, how do you think this position could help you? Think about how non-selfish this is. You are so focused on them, you're going to start to create a true partnership, which is what's going to open their eyes and their mind to say, wow, I'm working for somebody that I really think I could work well with. One. Two, they really have my interests in mind, and we're going to work together to get to the end goal. If you do this, you're also going to start to feel a completely different type of candidate interviewing you in front of you when you switch to more of the harder questions, which I'll review here in just a moment. Because not only do you have to sell them, but then you also have to make them want it and not necessarily let them know if they're qualified for it. That's how you raise the culture and the talent within your organization. So now that I've gone through the sale, I'm going to probably do a quick conditional close. And the reason why I want to close them is I just want to know that I have somebody really interested in working with me before I'm going to take the time to still interview. So here are just a couple ways you could say it. I always like to give tangible examples. You know that if you've joined our webinars in the past. Assuming your spouse says they're okay with the commute time, would you want this role? That can be a great question that you can ask if that's what their item is. Maybe they had a kind of a mix-up on how the commute would work. Or assuming my partner is okay with the delayed start, we discussed, would you be ready to start in October, or is there anything else that needs to be sorted out? Again, helping them pull in and share, yes, I'd be good. If we were to offer you the role, is it something you'd be ready and excited to take? You want to ask openly because you want to see what their level of interest is. A lot of your higher talents are going to say, well, I do have some other roles I'm looking at. I do have some other options. That's great. That should attract you to them even more. I know you have other options, no problem. Your response can be, great, sounds good. Where do we peg on the list? Top one, top two, where would you place us? Are we at the top of the list? Because if not, let's not waste our time. Again, showing you also have options is what now creates that culture in the interview that really starts to create attraction for those top performers. And ultimately, this is how your candidate should feel. They're not going to show you it, but ultimately, they're all jacked up. They're ready to rock and roll, and they can't wait to be able to drive the conversation with you further, to sell you them now. Now they want to sell themselves to you. That's a really awesome moment for you to have. And that's what you need to really get into the thick and really truly understand somebody on the behavioral side. So I want to take a break just for a moment here. I do have about another 10 minutes of phenomenal content here. But I want to jump in the chat box here, get everybody re-engaged. Thank you for listening as long as you have. What can you not forget so far from this webinar? Because I'm getting ready to tell you now how to seal the deal with them after you've sold them to really identify the right talent. But jump into this chat box. What's one thing you heard? What's one of those insights you go, holy cow, I've definitely got to make sure I implement that when it comes to my recruiting process or my approach or my mindset. And I'll give everybody just a moment here to start getting these in. So really simple, just prepare. Make sense? The critical 20 minutes up front. Lisa, sounds like you're getting captured on that helicopter. Great. Yes, there's a lot of prep that goes in to be required to get this set up. Aaron, thank you. No coffee shops. Thank you. Yes. You want to treat you like that, you got to act like it. Get your resume rules in place. Awesome. I mean, these are all things that have to happen. I'm sure there's a bunch more that people are starting to write down or they've wrote down themselves because they want to put in the chat. No problem. I just want to make sure we're capturing some of these insights along the way. Thank you for sharing. So I'm going to now talk to you about how do you switch the interview from the sale to the behavioral the behavioral analysis that's going to let you grab the final selection. So this is a comment I commonly share with my clients. Past performance is the best indicator of who they are. Future explanations is often who they want to be. Let that sink in for a minute. You're going to take the next 40 minutes in this 1 hour interview. Maybe it's an hour and a half, but 20 minutes on sales, 40 minutes on interviewing is a good balance. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to understand what is their past performance and how does that dictate their success, as the future explanations is more about who they want to be. So I'll give you a really clear example. Leading question. Tell me, how do you think you'll do as a leader? Just simple question. Oh, I think I'll do great. I'll do this. I'll do this. I'll make sure I implement this. I'll do this. I have some good experience, but this, and this is what I want to do. This is what I believe in. This is where I want to go. This is how I want to do it. Everything the person said means nothing to me in the interview process. That doesn't help me. What I did, though, is I got them to share they think they're a good leader. And they gave me a bunch to work off of, because now they told me that they want to do X, Y, and Z in leadership. And now I just get to ask such a simple question. Tell me about a time in the past where that's happened. Take me through it. Help me understand the background of why you have experience in doing that. And that's actually who you are, not what you know to say or who you want to be. The difference of hiring great versus okay is the ability to truly understand past performance versus somebody's future explanation of what they plan to do. And I see so many owners get trapped and not be able to follow through that process properly. So I'm going to try to help you set this up. Similar to the sale, I'm going to give you just a simple model you can follow here that I like to use in my interviews, and hopefully this helps you. Same thing. Now let them do a helicopter tour. Ask them to do an overview of the past. So you kind of summarize and go, great, sounds like you're really interested in this role. We're going to move into the interview portion of this now. I've probably got about 30 or 40 minutes worth of questions for you. I want to just have you start for 10 minutes. Walk me through the last 5 to 10 years of your background. Help me understand the nuances of where you've struggled, where you've succeeded, and how it's made you who you are, the professional you are today. This really helps you get an understanding of them. They get to take it in any direction they want. And your job is to write down notes, but you're looking for something very specific. You're looking to identify the specific stories that you're going to utilize later. So when they start talking about their last role, or when they start talking about the company 5 years ago they worked for, you're going to be able to really jump in on those specific stories. I'll show you how here in just a moment. What you're going to be doing after you've gone through that helicopter tour and you go, thank you for sharing that, you're now going to break down in the details, and you need to really only be testing for 3 attributes or traits. So I often see, well, I got to test for like 10. I go, well, pick your priorities, and you may have to have multiple interviews. People always ask, well, how many interviews should I have? It depends on how many attributes and traits. I really find I can't measure more than 3 in an hour interview. So if that helps you, maybe that tells you maybe it's a 2-interview process, maybe it's a 3-interview process. Again, depending on the senior level of the role, really will help dictate that. But let's say I've identified my 3 attributes or my 3 traits. I'm going to take that helicopter tour they provided me. I'm going to take some of those stories, and I'm going to ask very specific questions like you heard earlier. They walk me through all this background, and I get to go, help me understand how you feel you'll do as a leader. Oh, I'll do really well. That's the setup question. Now I'm going to take it deeper. You mentioned your role you had 3 years ago, and you talked about how you really struggled with this as a leader during that time. Tell me more about how you were introspective in that moment. Tell me what you did. What'd you do next? What'd you do next? What'd you do next? And that's the next part. It's an onion, right? The story is an onion. I've got to probe 5 layers deep. What happened then? And what was your perspective with that? And why'd you do that? Help me get into the mindset of that person. Help me understand their past behavior, how they think, how they tick. That is how I'm going to understand how they rank on that specific attribute or that specific trait. Because remember, past behavior, not future beliefs. Future beliefs is to keep them excited and to keep them engaged. You're just tracking the past behavioral aspect. My favorite part of this is now that you have the stories, no more generic references. You get to go, hey, you remember Shirley you were talking to me about from 2 years ago when you worked at that company? At the end of the interview, can you provide me her contact information? I'd love to reach out to her. and just find out what was that experience on her side of it so I can do a quick reference check. That is a phenomenal way. You will not be BS'd around, and you are going to know you have talent in front of you. But it's still hard to make the decision, even though if you're great at behavioral analysis, because we like to use our emotions, right? We like to come in and use our guts, but they're not scalable. Now, if your gut says don't hire them, listen to it. But if your gut says hire them, but past behavior doesn't check, don't do it. Too many times I've been failed myself. I've seen so many other business owners I've worked with make call into that and go, crap, we knew better. You have to be able to compare to folks. So make sure you're interviewing enough people at the same time so you don't get a halo effect on somebody and go, this person's perfect just because personality-wise we get along. That doesn't necessarily dictate what success is going to be. So I encourage you to create a numerical rating system. Work with your advisor. What is a 1 in introspection? What is a 2? What does a 3 mean? What does a 4 mean? Take the logic out of it, or sorry, the emotion out of it, and use logic only, and circle what is the number as you're going through the interview of where you would rank them. Then it's really easy. You have minimum score requirements to be hired, and then just most points win. You add up the points based on the attributes and traits, boom, that's who you're going to choose to hire. Put them in that order. You'll be thrilled based on who you bring forward. So I told you I would end this with 2 biggest mistakes that I see people make. And these are some of those higher levels for those that maybe have hired quite a bit. First one, you have to create a position of strength. This takes a lot of skill coaching to create that environment. People want what they fear they may not be able to get. This is exactly what happened. I got you super excited about the role. You want to come work for me. You're excited about that partnership. Boom, I'm going to challenge you like crazy in that interview process. I'm going to create a hard conversation for you to ensure I truly understand who you are, showing you I make sure I bring in talent. That starts to create that position of strength. There's some other ways to do it as well. Don't say, so when you're here, when you work here, that's making an assumption it's going to work. That's sales to a client. No, you need to constantly say, if we decide there's a fit. If we decide there's a fit, meaning I have not made up my decision yet. You need to know that. That will psychologically get in people's minds. I have to sell myself to them. They still haven't connected that they want me yet. You need to provide hard feedback at the end of the interview. Be very candid. Be very honest. I'm excited about this and this. I am fearful of this and this. I question if you will be able to step up and do X, Y, and Z to be successful. What's your perspective of that? I'm now testing introspection, but more importantly, I'm actually letting them resell themselves of why they will be great. I'm psychologically moving their brain forward to say, I want to work here, let me have it. If they don't fight it and they say, thank you, that's good feedback, I haven't sold them yet. I now know I may not either have the right type of talent, or they're not so hungry they need this so bad. Be candid in your excitement as well, though. This is a balancing act of position of strength. Too often people will come in over the top with position of strength and just be cruel, and no one wants to work for a jerk. So don't go about approach. You still share what you're excited about and why you're enjoying the conversation, but you're very open and honest about your fears. Share that you have options. Make sure they're aware that you have multiple people in the interview process, that you have to wait. Don't give them answers on the spot. Say, let me think about it. I've got other candidates going through the process. We'll review before we have a conversation, even if you're the one that's the little girl really excited across from them, ready to hire them. Don't let in on that. The second one I see, position of strength is the first mistake. The second mistake, they don't partner for retention. They do all this hard work and they hire, and then they skip the last step, which is making sure people need to know what their potential direction is, for better or for worse. You got to tell them openly and honestly how that's going to work at this organization. So there's some really crucial things that need to happen. Walk through the potential tracks to take. Ensure clear expectations are set on performance. Try talking them out of the role. Spend most of your time on the final interview talking about the worst parts of the role, and make sure they're truly comfortable and okay with that. Validate the value and role for them per their needs. Consistently bring back that opportunity. Because if you are not partnering with them and setting expectations throughout the process of what you expect, you'll get somebody super hyped up, excited. They'll come in, they'll realize what it is, and they'll fall by the wayside, and you won't actually retain that phenomenal talent you just brought in. So what do we cover today? We covered these 3 important prep questions that you have to have answered before you could ever think of hiring. 2, we talked about how do you select early on in the process before you actually bring them in the interview. Then when in the interview, how do you sell those top candidates to get that A talent in front of you? But then how do you do a behavioral analysis to keep that A talent? And then I walk you through those two common mistakes, little higher level themes that I see consistently recruiters and business owners take. Your company is as good as your worst employee. And I believe this is probably said by your angry customer. This is probably what they believe. So make sure you're raising the bar and you're hiring the best talent. I want to give everybody just a few resources and next steps. We're going to get out of here on time. If you're a client with us, thank you for joining us. So glad to have you here again. Make sure you speak with your advisor. What aspects did I walk through that you need to add to your roadmap? Make sure you're candid with them. They've watched this. They're clear on what you're going to need. So please ensure that you take that to them in your next client meeting to get that added to the roadmap so we can help you with your hiring needs. Additionally, if you want to keep doing more of the DIY, clients, jump into the Learning Center. As you know, you can log in, and there's two tools I would encourage you to go check out: the recruiting planning tool and the recruiting candidate selection tool. Some of that prep, these tools walk you through that prep from start to finish. So as a client, you have access to all of those tools, so take advantage of that. Our next webinar, I'm going to be talking about how to handle that dreaded conflict. And that's going to be on August 27th is when we're going to take care of that. So mark your calendars at 11 a.m. Central. I'm going to be really spending some time about how to get past that dreaded conflict and how to open up that performance culture within your organization. All right. And I just want to share this with you. If you're not working with us, you don't have to do it alone. I know it's about 50-50 on the call today. You don't have to go at this alone. We'd love to have you join the community. And just to give you a high level, we do this through one-on-one advising. We work with our owners for 5 to 10 hours a month, one-on-one, to help them grow the business, working on these types of skills in a very tailored, intimate way. We're helping them plan, helping them hold accountable, helping them build it, developing their skills, actually holding the hats, doing some impact work, and even soundboarding, letting them bring their thoughts to us. And we do this on a monthly subscription. So that way, it's only when you need it. It gives you time to run the business because it's only a few hours a month. We're always there to help you support the implementation of whatever we're working on throughout the process. And it helps keep cash flow in check, making us very affordable, which is why we're the #1 solution for small business owners looking to grow and scale their business. Our advisors have all ran businesses prior. They've walked in your shoes before. We've got them spread throughout Canada and US. There's got to be a perfect advisor that we've got that can work with you. They're full-time employees with us. And I can't pitch anything today except for the opportunity just to learn more, because I don't even know if it's a good fit yet. What you're seeing me do right now is called position of strength, if you're curious, just to tie in the learning all the way through. What I'm offering you is a chance to have a quick call with one of our relationship managers. The purpose of that call is to identify who is the right advisor for you based on your attributes, based on what you're looking to accomplish in your business and your background. And then we'll set you up with a free advising session. We'll give you a couple free hours with that advisor to experience it. You'll walk out with a clear roadmap for growth and what you would work on, so you have all the confidence in the world before you'd ever need to make a decision if you wanted to work with us. But we'd love to partner with you and help champion with you to get to the next stage of your business and help you grow to hit those audacious goals that you're setting out for yourself. So that wraps us up. Here's what I'm looking for you to do. We're going to go ahead and launch the poll here where you can sign up for the next webinar. And if you're just joining us for the first time or you haven't signed up for a free advising session, go ahead and click that first option. Let us know that you'd like to have the opportunity to take advantage of a couple free hours with an advisor, no obligation. And then lastly, if you want some additional resources, feel free to go ahead and select those options as well. And we'll send you some additional perspectives here of things involved in recruiting, some of those tools, etc. My last request, please, please, please jump into the chat box for me and share with me what were the biggest takeaways you captured from this webinar. If you give that extra minute, it helps me tailor my content and help make sure I bring the most relevant content to the business owners as possible. Thank you for spending your lunch hour with us or whatever hour it is with you. I hope this added tremendous value and is worth the ROI of your time. And we wish you the best as you continue on to grow and scale your business. Thanks so much.